How the wealthy use other people's money to get rich in real estate. Imagine standing before a massive iron door. Most people spend their lives trying to push it open with their own bare hands, exhausting their energy, their time, and their spirit. But the wealthy, they don't push. They use a lever. That lever is OPM, other people's money. Today, we decouple your wealth from your hours worked. We stop playing defense with pennies and start playing offense with millions. Debt is not your enemy. It is the wind beneath the wings of your empire. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Alchemy of Debt, Shifting the Internal Narrative. The only difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they use their time and their money. Robert Kiyosaki. Stop. Breath. Listen to the rhythm of your own heart. For decades, that beat has been shadowed by a whisper, a ghost in your machine telling you that owing money is a sin. You were taught that debt is a heavy chain, a dark cloud, a mark of failure. They told you to save your pennies, hide from the banks, and wait until you were ready to buy your freedom with cash you bled for. They lied to you. They didn't just lie about money. They lied about the very nature of power. This ancient fear, this poverty consciousness, is a virus living in your nervous system. It triggers a fight-or-flight response every time you hear the word loan. Your palms sweat. Your chest tightens. Your brain shuts down the creative centers that see opportunity because it is too busy screaming about survival. We're going to reach into your mind and rip that virus out by the roots. Right now, debt is not a moral weight. It is a neutral energy. It is a tool like fire. In the hands of a child, fire burns a house down. In the hands of a master, fire forged the steel that built the modern world. You've been looking at the flame and fearing the burn, while the wealthy have been using that same heat to melt the locks on the gates of empire. To change your bank account, we must first change the chemistry of your conviction. You are not a victim of the financial system. You are a potential conductor of its greatest currents. David works 60 hours a week, grinding his bones for a paycheck, saving every cent in a stagnant account that loses value to inflation every single hour. He refuses to borrow. He thinks he is being safe. In reality, he is drowning in a slow-motion wreck. Then look at a figure like Keith Cunningham or any titan of industry. They don't use their own blood to build. They use the blood of the system. They understand that waiting 20 years to save for a building is a waste of a life. They use a loan to seize the building today. The difference isn't the money. The difference is the internal narrative. One sees a cage. The other sees a catapult. Which one are you? There are two spirits that live within the world of borrowing. You must learn to name them, or they will consume you. The first is a thief. This is consumptive debt. This is the high-interest credit card used for a vacation you can't afford. This is a loan for the car that loses its soul the moment you drive it off the lot. The thief eats your future. It leeches your energy and gives you nothing but a temporary dopamine hit and a decade of regret. Most people only know the thief. That is why they are terrified. They have spent their lives being robbed by their own desires, and they think the tool is the problem when the problem was the hand holding it. Then there's the servant. This is productive debt. This is a loan you take to acquire a piece of the earth, real estate, that pays you to own it. When you take a loan to buy a cash-flowing property, the debt is no longer yours. It belongs to the asset. The tenants pay the interest. The market grows the equity. The tax laws shield the profit. The debt is a servant that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, building a wall of wealth around your family while you sleep. The servant doesn't cost you money. It buys you time. Imagine two seeds. The first seed is planted in dry soil and left to grow on its own. It struggles. It waits for the rain. It takes 30 years to become a tree. The second seed is given an immediate infusion of high-grade fertilizer and a massive irrigation system, all provided on credit. That tree explodes out of ground. It bears fruit in 3 years. By the time the first tree is a sapling, the second tree is an orchard. The irrigation system is the debt. It isn't a burden to the tree. It is the reason the tree survived the drought. You must stop seeing a loan as a bill and start seeing it as a force multiplier. If you could borrow $1 million today to make $2 million tomorrow, why would you wait 30 years to save it? To refuse a servant is to choose a life of unnecessary friction. Money is nothing more than stored human energy. When you work a job, you are trading your life force for digits on a screen. When you use your own cash to buy real estate, you're spending your past, your old sweat, your old hours, your old stress. But when you use a loan, you are performing a feat of financial alchemy. You are summoning the future into the present. You are taking the energy of a massive institution and directing it toward your vision. This is a strategic energy transfer. The bank is a battery. You are the motor. Your brain is wired to fear this because your ancestors survived by avoiding risk. But in the modern world, the greatest risk is standing still. Your nervous system needs to be recalibrated to handle the voltage of leverage. When you sign a loan document for a wise real estate deal, you aren't going into debt. You're acquiring an engine. Every titan of history understood this. Look at the way a massive bridge is built. They don't wait for the city to have all the cash in a vault. They issue bonds. They borrow. They use the future utility of the bridge to pay for its construction today. You are the bridge. Your vision is the destination. The loan is the steel. Feel the shift in your chest. The tightness is leaving. Replace it with the cold, hard clarity of a predator. A predator doesn't fear the distance of the chase. They calculate the strike. From this moment on, you will not say, "I can't afford it." You will ask, "How can I leverage this?" You will not look at a mortgage as a monthly weight. You will look at it as a controlled explosion that moves you forward faster than your feet ever could. The fear of debt is the fear of your own power. It is the fear that you aren't disciplined enough to manage the fire. But you are here because you are ready to be a master, not a servant to your fears. To master the alchemy of debt, you must develop a heart of stone and a mind of light. You cannot be emotional when the numbers are speaking to you. Real estate is math, and math has no feelings. It does not care about your anxiety. It only cares about the spread, the gap between what the debt costs and what the asset produces. When that gap is positive, the debt is your best friend. When you realize this, your vibration changes. You walk into a bank not as a beggar, but as a partner. You realize that the bank needs you to take their money so they can survive. You are providing them with a place for their capital to breathe. This is the rebirth of your financial identity. You are shedding the skin of the saver and growing the armor of the investor. Savers get crushed by the wheels of history. Investors ride them. This shift requires a total commitment to self-mastery. You must be the kind of person that a bank trusts with millions. That means your word must be law. Your discipline must be absolute. Your vision must be crystal clear. You are forging a new character, a sovereign creditor who understands that the world is built on credit and that those who master it rule it. Look at the horizon. The sun is rising on a version of you that no longer plays small. The fire of your ambition is now fueled by the very things that used to scare you. You see a for sale sign, and you don't see a price tag. You see a puzzle of leverage. You see a loan application, and you don't see a trap. You see a key. The chains have fallen off. The weight has become a wing. You are no longer working for money. You are making money work for you, using the world's own resources to carve your name into the earth. The era of playing defense is over. The era of the catapult has begun. Every great empire was built on the back of someone else's resources directed by a master's will. It is time to claim yours. Chapter 2. The velocity of capital. Why saving is losing. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In today's world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. Mark Zuckerberg. Your bank account is bleeding. You can't see the wound and you can't smell the iron in the air, but the life force of your hard-earned money is draining away while you sleep. You were raised to believe that a savings account was a fortress. You were told that the more digits you saw sitting still, the safer your family would be. That is a hallucination. In the reality of the modern world, money is not a rock. It is a river. When you try to dam that river up in a stagnant pool, it doesn't stay pure. It rots. It evaporates. Inflation is the heat that turns your hard work into steam, leaving you with nothing but a dry bed of what could have been. Listen to the math of the universe. If you save $100,000 today and bury it in a safe vault, 10 years from now, those same pieces of paper will buy you half of what they could today. You didn't lose the money. You lost the power of the money. You traded your youth and your time for a battery that leaks energy every second. Your brain's amygdala screams at you to hold on tight, to hoard, to stay small. It thinks it is protecting you from the storm. But the real storm is the slow, silent theft of your purchasing power. To survive, you must stop being a collector of cash and start being a conductor of velocity. Sarah is disciplined. She skips the lattes. She drives the old car. She puts every spare cent into a savings account earning 1%. She feels proud. She feels secure. But across town, an investor named Marcus is doing something that looks reckless to the untrained eye. He is taking out a loan. He is putting that money into a brick-and-mortar asset that produces rent. While Sarah's safe money is being eaten alive by the rising cost of bread, fuel, and lumber, Marcus's asset is rising with inflation. His debt is actually getting cheaper to pay back because the dollars he owes are worth less, while the property he owns is worth more. Sarah is swimming against the tide. Marcus is surfing the wave. Wealth is not a destination. It is a frequency. It is a state of constant motion. Look at the biology of your own body. If your blood stops moving, you die. If your breath stops moving, you die. If the electrical signals in your brain stop firing, the you that exists vanishes. Why would your finances be any different? Stagnant money is dead money. For you to create a dynasty, your capital must move with the speed of a strike. It must jump from the bank's vault into an asset, then from that asset into a tax benefit, and then from that benefit back into another acquisition. This is the velocity of capital. When you use a loan to buy real estate, you are injecting high-octane fuel into the engine of your life. Most people wait decades to save enough to buy a building. They are walking across a continent. You, by leveraging the bank's money, are boarding a jet. You are using the velocity of their capital to reach your destination before you are too old to enjoy the view. Your mind needs to grasp this neurological shift. Risk is not the act of moving. Risk is the act of staying still while the ground beneath you crumbles. Consider the great builders of history. From the Roman aqueducts to the skyscrapers of Dubai, none of it was built by waiting for spare change to accumulate. It was built by pulling the future into the present through the power of credit. They understood that the faster money moves, the more wealth it creates. $1 that moves 10 times in a year creates $10 of economic value. $1 that sits in a drawer creates 0. You must become the engine that drives that movement. You must look at your credit line as a reservoir of kinetic energy, just waiting for you to pull the lever and release the flood. Your brain is a prediction machine. It is hardwired to avoid loss more than it seeks gain. This is why the idea of a loan feels like a heavy backpack. You think, what if I can't pay it back? But that question comes from a place of scarcity. It assumes that you are small and that the world is shrinking. A master asks a different question. How fast can I make this capital work? When you move from a save and wait mentality to a leverage and accelerate mindset, you break the loop of the working class. You stop trading hours for dollars and start trading vision for assets. Imagine the heart of a star. It is a violent, beautiful furnace of motion. Hydrogen fuses into helium, creating a massive outward pressure that balances the crushing weight of gravity. Your financial life needs that same outward pressure. The gravity is inflation and taxes. They want to crush your wealth into nothing. The fusion is the velocity of your capital. By using loans to acquire real estate, you create an outward force of growth and cash flow that keeps the gravity of the system from collapsing your world. If you are waiting until you have the money to start, you have already lost. The wealthy don't have the money. They control the money. There is a massive difference. Control is a mental game. It is a conviction that you can direct the flow of resources better than the bank can. It is a faith that your ability to manage an asset is greater than the risk of the interest rate. This is not arrogance. It is a calculated strike of a professional. You are no longer a squirrel hiding nuts for a winter that never ends. You are a lion, choosing your moment to seize a territory that will feed your pride forever. The time for thinking about it has expired. Every day you hesitate, the value of your potential is leaking away. The world does not reward the cautious. It rewards the courageous who have done the math. You must audit your life right now. Where is your energy sitting still? Where is your capital rotting in a safe place that is actually a trap? Identify the stagnant pools in your mind and your accounts, and prepare to drain them into the river of motion. You are being called to rise into a new level of awareness. This is a rebirth of your utility. You are shifting from a consumer who fears the bank to a commander who uses the bank. This requires a sharp, cold focus. It requires you to look at a loan document and see it for what it truly is, a contract for speed. You are signing up for the fast lane. You are choosing the vibration of the hunter. The velocity you create today will become the momentum that carries your children's children. Feel the heat of the fire we are building. The steel of your resolve is hardening. You are no longer afraid of the debt. You are afraid of the waste. You are afraid of the tragedy of a life spent playing it safe while the world passed you by. Rip off the blindfold. See the erosion for what it is, and then move. Put your capital into motion. Strike while the heat of your ambition is at its peak. The river is flowing, and it is time for you to take the helm. Rise, move, accelerate. Your empire is waiting for the spark of your action. Chapter 3. The Sovereign Creditor, Building an Irresistible Financial Character. Character is the ability to carry out a good resolution long after the excitement of the moment has passed. Cavett Robert. Your credit score is not a number. It is a digital heartbeat. It is a cold, objective mirror that reflects exactly who you are when nobody is looking. Most people look at their financial report and see a judgment or a barrier. They see a cage built by a computer. They are wrong. That score is a testament to your discipline or a map of your distractions. It is the world's way of asking one simple question. Can you be trusted with fire? When you treat your credit like a chore, you remain a slave to the system. But when you treat it as your financial character, you become a sovereign creditor. You are no longer asking for a favor. You are offering a guarantee. Listen to the wiring of your brain. Every time you make a promise and break it, even a small one to yourself, you create a leak in your internal power. Your brain records this. Your confidence drops. The financial system simply quantifies that leak. Banks do not lend money to good people. They lend money to predictable people. They want to see the steel in your spine. They want to know that when the storm hits and the wind howls, you will stand by your word. This is the inner game of credit. It is about forging a persona so reliable that institutions feel a physical pull to give you their resources. They want to bet on a sure thing. You must become that sure thing. Elias is talented. He has big dreams. But his life is a series of half-finished projects and late arrivals. He forgets to pay the small bills because he is too busy chasing the big idea. To the bank, Elias is a liability. It doesn't matter how smart he is. His financial character is soft. It is like trying to build a skyscraper on wet sand. Now, look at a woman like any legendary developer. Before they had a cent, they had their word. They treated a $10 obligation with the same holy reverence as a $10 million bond. They built a reputation for being unbreakable. That reputation became a magnet for capital. The money didn't make them reliable. Their reliability made the money. Your word is the only currency that never devalues. In a world of digital smoke and mirrors, a person who does exactly what they say they will do is a rare and precious element. It is like finding a vein of pure gold in a mountain of dirt. When you talk to a lender, they are listening to the vibration of your conviction. They are looking for the sovereign within you. If you show up with a shaky hand, and then maybe the gate stays shut. But if you show up with a history of absolute precision, the gate swings open before you even touch it. This isn't about being lucky. This is about the gravity of your character. We need to strip away the excuses. I forgot. It was only a few days late. The system is unfair. These are the cries of the weak. The sovereign creditor takes full ownership of every digit. They understand that a loan is a sacred contract between their present self and their future self. When you respect a debt, you respect your future. You are telling the universe that you are a steward of its energy. If you cannot manage a small credit card, you will never be allowed to command a massive apartment complex. The principles are the same, only the zeros change. You must forge a habit of excellence in the shadows, so you can walk into the light of the bank with your head held high. Imagine a forge. The heat is intense. The hammer strikes the iron over and over. That iron is your discipline. Every on-time payment is a strike of the hammer. Every debt settled is a spark of light. Slowly, the iron becomes steel. It becomes sharp. It becomes a tool that can cut through the noise of the market. This is the biological reality of habit formation. You are literally rewiring your frontal lobe to prioritize long-term stability over short-term comfort. You are training your nervous system to be calm under the pressure of obligation. You aren't just building a score. You are building a soul that is fit for wealth. When your character is solid, you change the room just by walking into it. You stop being a borrower and start being an opportunity. Lenders are under immense pressure to put money to work. They are starving for people who can handle that money with precision. When you present yourself as a low-risk, high-integrity individual, you become the answer to their prayers. You are the safe harbor for their capital. This is where the power shifts. This is where you begin to dictate the terms. You aren't begging for an interest rate. You are showing them why you are worth the best one they have. This level of character is not a performance. It is a way of being. It shows up in how you treat your smallest bills, how you keep your house, and how you speak to yourself. It is a rhythmic commitment to reality. Most people live in a fantasy where things will just work out. The sovereign creditor lives in a world of hard facts and absolute accountability. They know their numbers better than the bank does. They anticipate the questions. They have the answers ready. They move with the quiet confidence of a master who has already won the battle in their mind before they even step onto the field. Consider the everyday persona of a master mechanic. They don't just fix things. They understand the system. They listen to the engine. They know that if one bolt is loose, the whole machine will eventually fail. You must be the master mechanic of your financial life. You must know every bolt. You must tighten every loose end. When a lender looks at your financial history, they should see a machine that is tuned to perfection. They should see a track record that screams, success is inevitable here. This is how you create an irresistible pull. You make it a mathematical mistake for them to say no to you. The transformation starts today, not when your score hits 800, not when you have $1 million in the bank. It starts with the very next promise you make. Look at your financial obligations not as burdens, but as opportunities to prove who you are. Every bill is a test. Every deadline is a chance to sharpen your will. You are rising above the victim mentality that sees banks as enemies. You are stepping into the role of a partner, a leader, a sovereign. This is a rebirth of your reputation. You are burning away the sloppy habits of the past and stepping into the fire of accountability. This fire doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It leaves only the steel of character behind. When you look in the mirror, you want to see someone who is worth millions, not because of what they have, but because of who they are. You are building a foundation that no market crash can crack and no recession can wash away. Your character is your ultimate asset. Rise to the level of your potential. Stop playing small with your promises. Become the kind of person that the world wants to give its resources to. The path to empire is paved with the promises you kept. The door is open for the sovereign. Walk through it with the weight of your word behind you. The capital is waiting. The assets are waiting. But first, the master must appear. Rise. Commit. Rule. Your character is the key to the kingdom. Chapter 4. Finding the yield, the hunter's instinct. In business, the rearview mirror is always clearer than the windshield. Warren Buffett. The crowd is blind. Most people walk down a street and see old wood, cracked concrete, and peeling paint. They see a problem. They see a reason to walk faster. But you, the hunter, see something entirely different. You are training your brain to ignore the surface and hunt for the yield. This isn't a passive skill. It is a biological reconfiguration. Most human brains are wired to seek comfort and avoid ugly situations. This is an ancient survival mechanism. Our ancestors stayed away from the dark cave and the rotting carcass. But in the world of wealth, the ugly is where the gold is buried. To find the yield, you must kill the part of you that craves a pretty deal. You must develop a cold, predatory focus. When you look at a distressed property, your heart rate shouldn't go up in fear. It should settle into a calm, rhythmic pulse of recognition. You're looking for the gap, the gap between what a property is and what it must become. While the amateur is looking for a home that is ready for a family, the hunter is looking for a skeleton that is ready for a soul. This requires you to move past the visual noise. You aren't buying a house. You are buying a math problem that has a massive hidden profit as the answer. Maya has been told all her life to look for quality. She sees a house with a sagging porch and a yard full of weeds, and she feels a sense of pity. She moves on. Then comes the hunter. He ignores the weeds. He looks at the bones. He sees that the foundation is solid rock. He sees that the layout is perfect for the modern market. He sees that the debt he will take to buy this wreck is anchored by an intrinsic value that is 3 times the asking price. He doesn't see a disaster. He sees a masterpiece trapped in a block of marble. Maya stays a spectator. The hunter becomes a king. Equity is not something you wait for. It is something you create. The world calls it market appreciation, but that is a slow man's game. The sovereign hunter seeks forced equity. This is a fire that burns through the risk of debt. When you borrow money to buy a property that is already worth more than you paid, or will be worth vastly more after a targeted strike of renovation, you'll build a fortress around your loan. The debt is no longer a risk. It is a bridge. You are using the bank's money to seize a value that the previous owner was too tired, too blind, or too broken to see. You must learn to smell the desperation and the neglect. Neglect has a scent. It smells like opportunity. It looks like a for sale sign that has been sitting in the rain for 6 months. It sounds like a seller who just wants a nightmare to end. In these moments, your empathy must be balanced by your conviction. You are not taking advantage of a situation. You are solving a problem that no one else has the courage to touch. You are the cleaner. You are the one who restores order to the chaos. By taking that distressed asset off the market, you are breathing life back into the neighborhood and profit into your pocket. Look at the history of the great land barons. They didn't buy when the sun was shining and the ribbons were being cut. They bought when the streets were empty and the windows were boarded up. They understood the law of contrast. They knew that the greatest yield comes from the greatest shift. You are looking for properties with cosmetic cancer, problems that look terminal to the average person, but are easily cured by a master with a plan. A coat of paint, a new floor, a wall knocked down. These are the surgical strikes that turn a 5-figure loan into a 6-figure profit. Your mind needs a filter. Without it, you will drown in the data. Every day, thousands of properties hit the market. If you try to look at all of them, you will paralyze your progress. The hunter has a target profile. They know exactly what they're looking for before they even open their eyes. They aren't looking for real estate. They are looking for mispriced energy. This is where you apply the precision of a mindset coach. You decide with absolute certainty what your strike zone is. If a deal doesn't fit the math, it doesn't exist. You must be willing to walk away from 99 deals to find the one that will change your life. This is the stoic filter. Most people get deal fever. They get bored, they get impatient, and they buy something just to feel like they are doing something. That is how you get crushed by debt. The hunter is comfortable in the silence. They can wait in the tall grass for weeks, watching the market move, waiting for the one asset that is so undervalued that the loan is practically a gift. Imagine a specialized mechanic, someone who only works on high-performance engines. They don't waste time on economy cars. They know the exact sound of a valve that is slightly out of alignment in AV12. That is you. You aren't looking for a nice house. You are looking for a broken cash flow machine that you can fix with the tools of your vision and the leverage of your credit. You are looking for the deep yield. This is a return that comes not just from rent, but from the massive jump in value you create the moment you close a deal. This is where the alchemy happens. This is where debt becomes a servant of your genius. The hunt is not a game. It is a serious, high-stakes commitment to your future. You cannot afford to be a tourist. You must be a professional. This means you study the maps. You know every street in your target zone. You know the comparables better than the agents do. You know the cost of a roof, the price of a kitchen, and the rhythm of the local economy. When the deal appears, you don't think about it. You strike. You have done the work in the shadows, so you can act with lightning speed in the light. This is the rebirth of your intuition. You are moving from guessing to knowing. You are developing a gut feeling that is actually your subconscious processing thousands of data points in a single second. When you see the right property, your body will tell you. You will feel a surge of energy, a yes that resonates in your bones. That is your hunter's instinct firing. Trust it, but anchor that trust in the math. The math is the steel that holds the intuition together. Rise. The world is full of ruins, waiting for a master to see their worth. Stop looking for what is finished. Start looking for what is possible. The yield is hiding in plain sight, disguised as hard work and ugly problems. Tear off the mask. See the masterpiece. Take the loan and use it to carve your empire out of the wreckage. The bank is ready. The market is waiting. The hunt is on. Rise. Focus. Strike. The yield belongs to the one who sees. Chapter 5. The Math of Freedom, Mastering the Debt-to-Wealth Ratio. Success is not a random act. It is a mathematical certainty if you follow the laws of wealth. Bob Proctor. The world is made of numbers, but most people are afraid to count. They live in a fog of hoping and wishing, treating their bank account like a mystery box they are too scared to open. You are different. To win, you must strip away the emotion and look at the cold, hard skeleton of the deal. Freedom has a formula. It isn't a vague feeling of having enough. It is a specific, measurable state where your assets produce more energy than your lifestyle consumes. This is the wealth dashboard. It is the cockpit of your empire. When you master these ratios, the fear of debt vanishes because you can see the math working in your favor. You aren't guessing anymore. You are calculating your way to the top. Your brain loves patterns, but it hates confusion. When you don't know your numbers, your nervous system stays in a state of high alert. It senses a threat it cannot name. But the moment you define the math, you ground your power. You turn a terrifying what if into a manageable how much. Wealth is simply the result of a positive spread. If the debt costs you 5% and the asset pays you 10%, you are winning. It is that simple. The rest is just noise. You must train your mind to cut through the clutter and find the pulse of the machine. If the pulse is strong, the deal is yours. Elena wants to buy a small apartment building. She is nervous because the loan is more money than she has ever seen. She lies awake at night, imagining the bank taking everything. But then she sits down and builds her dashboard. She looks at the rent coming in. She subtracts the mortgage, the taxes, the repairs, and the insurance. She sees that after every single bill is paid, there is $2,000 left over every month. That $2,000 is free cash flow. It is the sound of the debt paying for itself. Elena realizes she isn't owing money. She is managing a machine that spits out cash. The fear dies because the math is her shield. Elena stops being a worrier and becomes commander. Most people focus on their net worth, a vanity number that looks good on paper but doesn't buy groceries. You must focus on your leverage ratio. This is the relationship between the money you borrow and the value you control. In the world of the average, debt is a weight that pulls you down. In your world, debt is the fulcrum that lifts you up. A master knows how to balance this ratio so that the pressure of the debt is always outweighed by the strength of the asset. You want to control as much of the earth as possible while using as little of your own old energy as necessary. This is the math of freedom. If you use $100,000 of your own cash to buy one house, you have one stream of income. But if you use that same money as a down payment on 4 houses using loans, you have 4 streams of income for sets of tax breaks and 4 assets growing in value. You have quadrupled your velocity without working a single extra hour. This is how the small become great. They don't work harder. They use a bigger lever. Your job is to ensure that the debt-to-wealth ratio stays in the green zone, where the income from the properties is at least 1.25 times the cost of the debt. This is your debt service coverage ratio. It is the safety net that ensures you never fall. Imagine a high-performance jet. It needs a specific ratio of fuel to air to stay in flight. Too much fuel and it stalls. Too little air and it drops. Your real estate empire is that jet. The fuel is the debt. It provides the power to climb. The air is the cash flow. It provides the lift. As long as you maintain that ratio, you can fly forever. The wealthy aren't debt-free. They are stress-free because their assets handle the weight. You are moving from a survival zone, where you pay for your life, to the freedom zone, where your loans pay for your life. You cannot manage what you do not measure. You must create a dashboard of power in your mind and on your screen. This dashboard has three main lights: cash-on-cash return, equity growth, and the break-even point. The cash-on-cash return tells you how hard your actual money is working. If you put $50,000 down and get $10,000 back in a year, that's a 20% return. That beats any savings account in history. It is the fire that keeps your ambition burning. The equity growth is your long-term fortress. It is the silent wealth being built as the debt is paid down by your tenants. Every month, a piece of that loan vanishes, replaced by a piece of the building you now own outright. It is like a clock ticking toward your total independence. And the break-even point is your armor. It tells you how many vacancies you can handle before the deal starts to hurt. When you know you can stay profitable, even if the building is 30% empty, you can sleep through any market storm. You have built a structure of steel that cannot be shaken by the winds of the economy. Look at the titans of industry, the people who build cities. They don't have better brains than you. They have better dashboards. They know their numbers to the penny. They understand that wealth is a game of margins. When you step into this level of precision, you stop being an emotional creature and start being a strategic force. You treat your real estate like a business, not a hobby. You cut the fat. You optimize the flow. You realize that every dollar you save in expenses is a dollar that increases the value of the asset. You are no longer hoping for a good year. You are engineering one. The fog is lifting. You can see the path clearly now. It is paved with digits and ratios, but it leads to a place of absolute peace. You are shedding the skin of the gambler who prays for luck and putting on the suit of the architect who trusts the blueprint. This is the rebirth of your confidence. It is a confidence born of reality, not hype. You know exactly where you stand because you have done the math. This is your call to action. Right now, look at your life through the lens of the wealth dashboard. Stop guessing about your future. Open the spreadsheet. Face the numbers. Calculate the spread. If the math doesn't work, kill the deal and move on. If the math does work, strike with the conviction of 1,000 suns. You are the master of the ratio. You are the conductor of the flow. The debt is no longer a monster under the bed. It is electricity in the wires of your empire. Rise. Calculate. Command. The numbers do not lie, and they have decided that it is your turn to be free. The world is waiting for the one who knows the formula. That person is you. Rise. Master the math. Own your freedom. Chapter 6. The art of the refinance. The infinite loop. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. Steve Jobs. Most people think money is a physical thing you hold in your hand. They treat it like a finite bucket of water. They think if they pour that water into a house, the bucket is empty until they spend years waiting for the rain to refill it. This is the great illusion of the working class. They are trapped in a linear world. You, however, are about to see the infinite loop. You are about to learn how to make your money behave like a ghost, passing through an asset, changing its form, and then returning to your hand, ready to strike again. This is not just a strategy. It is a fundamental shift in how you view the physics of wealth. We are talking about the holy grail of real estate, the ability to own the world with none of your own skin left in the game. Your brain is wired for finality. When you spend money, your nervous system registers a loss. It feels like a piece of your life force has been ripped away. This triggers a conservation mode where you become timid, slow, and defensive. But the refinance, the act of pulling your capital back out, rewires this biology. It teaches your mind that capital is not a one-way street. It is a cycle. When you realize that you can buy a property, fix it, and then have a bank give you every cent of your original investment back, the fear of spending vanishes. You realize you aren't spending at all. You are just depositing energy into a building for a short season before calling it home. Thomas saves for 5 years to buy one rental property. He puts down $50,000. He is proud, but he is also stuck. His bucket is empty. He has to wait another 5 years to save for the next one. He is playing a slow, agonizing game of inches. Now, look at a master of the loop. The master buys a distressed property for $100,000, uses $50,000 to forge it into something beautiful, and increases its value to $200,000. Then they go to the bank. The bank sees a $200,000 asset and says, "We will lend you 75% of that." That's $150,000. The master takes that check, pays back their original costs, and walks away with the house and their original cash. The house is now a free asset. The money is back in the bucket. Thomas is waiting. The master is already buying house number 2. This is the rhythmic heartbeat of empire. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Each stage is a necessary movement in a grand symphony of leverage. When you buy right, you are hunting for the gap we discussed. When you rehab, you are forcing the value upward with a hammer and a vision. You are not decorating. You are forging equity. You are taking a raw, broken piece of the earth and breathing a higher purpose into it. This is the moment of rebirth. The cracked walls and rotting floors are burned away, replaced by the steel and light of your ambition. Then you rent. This is the stabilization phase. You find a tenant who will pay the rent blood that keeps the asset alive. Their monthly payment covers the debt, the taxes, and the insurance. The asset is now a self-sustaining organism. It doesn't need you to feed it. It feeds itself. And because it is now a performing, healthy machine, the bank views it as a blue-chip asset. They no longer see a risky wreck. They see a reliable stream of income. This is when you strike with the refinance. This is the refinance moment. The magical instant where the bank cuts you a check for the value you created. Most people use a loan to get into a deal. You are using a loan to get out of the cost of the deal. You are replacing your high-cost sweat equity and cash with low-cost, long-term bank debt. When the dust settles, you still own the title. You still collect the cash flow. But your original capital is back in your bank account. Your cash-on-cash return has become infinite. You cannot divide by zero. Since you have zero of your own money left in the building, every dollar it pays you is a miracle. It is money from nothing. It is the ultimate victory of the mind over the material world. Once you have completed the loop once, the repeat becomes an obsession. You crack the code. You have realized that you don't need millions of dollars to own 100 houses. You only need the same $50,000. Use 100 times over. This is the velocity of the loop. While the rest of the world is trying to save their way to wealth, you are rolling your way to a dynasty. You are moving with a speed that defies the traditional laws of finance. You are a snowball rolling down a mountain of credit, growing larger and more powerful with every rotation. This requires a radical level of emotional stoicism. You cannot get attached to the properties. You must see them as stops on a train line. Your goal is to keep the train moving. If you get bogged down in the rehab, or if you get lazy with the refinance, the loop breaks. The momentum stops. Your nervous system must be tuned to the next. You celebrate the win for an hour, and then you are back in the tall grass, hunting for the next gap. This is the hunger of the loop. It is a cold, calculated drive to maximize every second of your capital's time. Imagine a forge that never goes cold. The metal is always glowing. The hammer is always falling. Each time a piece is finished, it is tossed into the complete pile, and a new raw bar is shoved into fire. This is how you build a city. This is how you build a name that lasts for centuries. You aren't just an investor. You are a manufacturer of assets. You are taking the liquid money of the bank and freezing it into the solid form of real estate, over and over again. You are the architect of an infinite machine. The path is open. The infinite loop is not a secret for the elite. It is a tool for the disciplined. It is waiting for the person who has the courage to stop saving and start cycling. It is waiting for you to realize that your potential is not limited by the size of your bank account, but by the speed of your strategy. You are being called to step out of the slow lane of the masses and into the hyperdrive of the leveraged. This is a rebirth of your freedom. Every time you pull your money out of a deal, you are winning a war against scarcity. You are proving that you are a master of the system. You are showing the world that you cannot be stopped because you don't need the world's permission to grow. You have the loop. You have the fire. You have the vision. Rise. Stop hoarding your cash. Put it to work. Bring it back home. And then send out again. Strike with the BRR. Build the machine. The assets are out there, waiting for the one who knows how to make money move like a ghost. That master is you. Rise, refinance, repeat. The loop is your ladder to the stars. Chapter 7. Protecting the Empire, Risk Mitigation, and Emotional Stoicism. Emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It is not the triumph of heart over head. It is a unique intersection of both. David Caruso. Wealth is not built in a vacuum. It is built in a world that shifts, cracks, and sometimes burns. If you think your journey with debt will be a straight line through a sunny field, you are dreaming. Real power, the kind that lasts for generations, is not measured by how much you can borrow when times are good. It is measured by how still you can stand when the world around you is screaming. You are building an empire on the back of leverage, and that means you are holding a high-voltage wire. To stay alive, you must become the insulation. You must develop a stoic shield that keeps the chaos of the market from ever touching the core of your will. This is the psychological fortitude required to lead. Listen to your biology. When the news cycles shout about crashes, or when interest rates jump, your brain survival center wants to hijack your logic. It wants to flood your system with cortisol, making you twitchy, fearful, and prone to fire sales. But a master understands that a market fluctuation is just weather. It is not the climate. You have built your foundation on the cold, hard math of cash flow. If the numbers work when you sign the papers, and the property is still spitting out checks, the price on a screen doesn't matter. You stay in the center of the storm. You breathe. You watch the amateurs run for the exits while you tighten your grip on the assets that will make you a king. Claire owns 10 properties. The market dips, and suddenly her portfolio is worth 20% less than it was last month. Her friends tell her to sell before she loses it all. Her heart is hammering against her ribs. But Claire is a student of the steel. She looks at her dashboard. The tenants are still paying. The mortgage is fixed rate. The cash flow is steady. She realizes that value is a ghost, but income is a rock. She ignores the noise. She goes for a walk. She stays calm while the world panics. 2 years later, the market rebounds, and Claire is twice as rich as she was before. She didn't win because she was lucky. She won because she refused to blink. Risk is not something you avoid. It is something you cage. You are an architect of wealth, and that means you build for the worst-case scenario while planning for the best. You don't just hope the roof doesn't leak or the rates don't rise. You buy insurance. You use interest rate hedges. You build massive cash reserves. These aren't just financial tools. They are the psychological armor that allows you to sleep through a hurricane. When you know you have a year's worth of mortgage payments sitting in a liquid vault, a vacancy isn't a disaster. It is just a Tuesday. Most people fail with debt because they are skinny with their margins. They borrow every cent they can and leave themselves no room to breathe. That is not leverage. That is a suicide mission. The sovereign investor understands the law of the buffer. You leave a gap between what you can handle and what the market demands. This gap is where your peace of mind lives. It is the concrete that keeps the walls from collapsing when the ground shakes. You treat your insurance premiums like a tithe to the gods of stability. You pay for protection of your future self so that your current self can stay focused on the strike. Imagine a massive dam holding back billions of gallons of water. The engineers didn't build it to withstand normal rain. They built it to survive a once-in-a-century flood. They built in overflow valves, reinforced steel, and redundant sensors. That dam is your portfolio. The water is the debt. It is a massive force of nature that can either power a city or wipe one out. Your risk mitigation strategies are the valves and the steel. They're what allow you to look at a $5 million liability and feel nothing but the cool confidence of a professional. You aren't taking a chance. You are managing a certainty. In the world of the master, there are no bad events, only new data. If a tenant leaves, it is a data point. If an interest rate climbs, it is a variable to be adjusted. You must strip the adjectives out of your vocabulary. Stop calling things terrible or scary. Use the language of the machine. The input has changed, so the output must be recalculated. This is the pinnacle of emotional intelligence. You are decoupling your identity from performance of your assets. You are not your bank account. You are the commander of the forces that fill it. This level of stoicism is a neurological superpower. While your competitors are drowning in their own emotions, you are cutting through the noise with the precision of a laser. You see the opportunities that only appear in the dark. When a recession hits, most people see a wall. You see a clearance sale. You see a chance to pick up prime assets from people who didn't build their stoic shield. You are the vulture that waits for the weak to drop, and you are the lion that defends what is yours with absolute conviction. Look at the titans who have survived 5 decades in this game. They have been through the fire. They have seen interest rates hit 18%, and they have seen them hit 0. They are still here because they didn't let the fire get inside them. They kept the heat in the forge where it belongs. They understood that their greatest asset wasn't the land or the buildings. It was their own ability to remain rational when everyone else went insane. You are forging that same ability right now. You are training your mind to be a sanctuary of logic in a world of hype and horror. The transformation is final. You are no longer a leaf blown by the winds of the economy. You are the wind. You are stepping into a level of power where luck has no meaning. You have done the math. You have bought the armor. You have stilled your heart. You are ready to manage an empire because you have finally learned to manage yourself. This is your call to rise. Go through your deals. Look for the cracks. Were you exposed? Where is your ego playing with the numbers? Fix it today. Build your reserves. Shore up your defenses, not because you are afraid, but because you are a professional. A master doesn't wait for the storm to realize the roof is leaking. A master builds a roof that cannot leak. Rise. Protect. Conquer. Your empire is only as strong as the mind that commands it. The world will try to shake you, but you are rooted in the steel of your conviction. You are the architect of your own safety. You are the calm in the center of the world. Rise. Hold the line. The future belongs to the Stoic. Chapter 8. Creative Financing Beyond the Big Banks. The limits of your world are the limits of your imagination. If you want a different result, you must think in a way that the masses refuse to. Wayne Dyer. The world is obsessed with the word no. You walk into a massive bank. You sit across from a person in a stiff suit, and you wait for them to give you permission to be great. When they point to a computer screen and tell you that you don't fit the box, you walk out feeling defeated. You think the game is over. You believe the gate is locked. This is the great mirage. You have been trained to think that the big banks are the only source of fuel for your fire. That is a lie. They are just one gas station on a highway filled with energy. If the pump is dry at one station, a master doesn't stop the car and die in the desert. A master looks at the horizon and finds another way. Your lack of money is never the wall. It is your lack of resourcefulness that keeps you small. Your brain is a problem-solving engine, but it goes to sleep when you accept a standard answer. When a bank says no, your neurological response should not be, I failed. It should be, the hunt has truly begun. We are moving beyond the rigid, cold world of institutional lending and stepping into the raw, human world of creative financing. This is where the real empires are forged. This is where you stop being a borrower and start being a deal maker. You are no longer looking for a product on a shelf. You are looking for a human solution to a human problem. The money is everywhere. It is flowing through the streets like invisible electricity. You just need to learn how to plug in. Julian has a vision for a neglected apartment complex, but his credit is bruised and his income doesn't look right on a spreadsheet. The banks laugh at him. Most people would go back to their day job and complain about the system. But Julian is a hunter. He finds the owner of the building, an elderly man who is tired of dealing with leaky pipes and late rent. Julian doesn't ask for a loan. He offers a seller finance deal. He says, you be the bank. I'll pay you more in interest than the bank ever would, and you get to retire in peace while I do the hard work. The owner wins. Julian wins. No bank was invited. Julian didn't need their permission because he had the audacity to create his own terms beyond the cold concrete of the city center. There's a private market that runs on trust and speed. This is private money and hard money. This is the realm of the wealthy individual. The person who has cash sitting in a stagnant account, rotting away because they don't have the time or the hunger to hunt for deals themselves. They are looking for a conductor. They are looking for you. while you're looking for their money. They are desperately looking for your expertise, your discipline, and your yield. When you realize this, the power dynamic flips. You are not begging for a scrap. You are offering them a seat at a table of growth. Private money is the blood of creative real estate. It moves fast. It doesn't care about your tax returns from 3 years ago. It cares about the asset, and it cares about the person standing in front of them. To access this, you must be a financial high performer. You must carry yourself with the weight of a man or woman who is already successful. You are selling a future. You are taking their passive energy and turning it into active wealth. This requires a level of conviction that can be felt through a handshake. If you doubt yourself for a single second, they will smell the fear and close the vault. But if you speak with the fire of the math we've discussed, they will practically beg you to take their capital. Imagine a forge where the iron is always hot. The hard money lender is the one who provides the coal. It's expensive fuel, high interest, short terms, but it burns hot enough to melt through any barrier. You don't use this money for a 10-year hold. You use it as a surgical strike. You use it to seize a distressed asset that a bank would never touch. You fix it, you flip the value, and then you pay the lender back and keep the profit. It is a bridge made of fire. Most people are too scared of the interest rate to use it. They are penny wise and pound foolish. The master knows that the cost of the money is irrelevant if the profit from the speed is 10 times higher. You pay for the velocity. Every deal is a story. To master creative financing, you must become a world-class storyteller. You aren't just presenting a real estate deal. You are presenting a rebirth. You are showing a seller how they can escape their tax burden. You are showing a private lender how they can protect their children's inheritance. You are cutting through the noise by speaking to their specific needs. This is financial empathy. It is the ability to see the world through the eyes of the person who has the resources you need, and then building a bridge that benefits both of you. There are no standard deals in this space. Everything is negotiable. You can ask for a lower down payment in exchange for a higher interest rate. You can ask for a balloon payment 5 years down the line to give you time to work the infinite loop. You can bring in a partner who provides a credit while you provide the sweat. This is the steel of resourcefulness. It is a refusal to accept no as a final answer. If the door is locked, you look for a window. If the window is shut, you go down the chimney. If there is no chimney, you take a sledgehammer to the wall and build a new entrance. Think of the greats, the builders who started with nothing and ended with the skyline. They didn't start with a pre-approval letter from a big bank. They started with a phone call, a coffee, and a what if. They built their first empires on the backs of OPM, other people's money, long before they were qualified to do so. They understood that the world is built on paper and promises. If your promise is backed by the character we built in Chapter 3, and your paper is backed by the math we mastered in Chapter 5, then the money will find you. You don't hunt money. You hunt deals, and the money follows the scent of the profit. It is time to stop being a consumer of loans and start being a creator of capital. You are being called to a higher level of financial existence. This is a rebellion against the box. You are tearing up the application and writing your own contract. This requires you to step into the light and be seen. You must talk to people. You must share your vision. You must be willing to be rejected 100 times until you find the one person who says, "Tell me more." This is the rebirth of your agency. You are no longer waiting for a system to tell you that you are worthy. You are declaring your own worth by the quality of the deals you bring to the table. The banks are a tool, but they are not the master. You are the master. Your mind is the ultimate bank. Your creativity is the ultimate collateral. From this moment on, you will never say, "I don't have the money." You will say, "I haven't found the right structure yet." And then you will keep digging until you strike the vein. Rise. Look past the big buildings and the glass towers. Look at the people. Look at the problems. Look at the hidden pockets of capital waiting for a commander. The world is a playground of opportunity for the one who refuses to be told. No, your empire isn't waiting on a loan officer's signature. It is waiting on your next move. Rise, structure, strike. The money is yours for the making. Chapter 9. The Legacy Fulcrum, Transitioning from Debt to Dynasty. Legacy is not leaving something for people. It is leaving something in people. Peter Straupel. You have spent your life chasing the strike. You have mastered the kill, the leverage, and the loop. But there's a higher frequency waiting for you, a level where your wealth stops being a scoreboard and starts being a sanctuary. Most people build a pile of cash and call it a life. They spend their days guarding a hoard paper that the wind of time will eventually blow away. You are not building a pile. You are building a legacy fulcrum. This is a point where your debt-fueled empire stops being about your survival and starts being about the survival of your bloodline for the next century. This requires a final, radical shift in your internal wiring. You must move from the me to the we. You must stop thinking in years and start thinking in decades. Your brain is biologically programmed for the short term. Your ancestors survived because they ate the fruit today. They didn't plan for a harvest 40 years away. To create a dynasty, you must override this ancient code. You must become a financial time traveler. You are reaching forward into the lives of your children's children and laying the concrete for their freedom today. This isn't just about money. It is about the transfer of wisdom. If you pass down buildings without passing down the mindset of the master, you're just handing your heirs a heavy weight that will crush them. You must forge the empire and the character simultaneously. The debt is the steel. The wisdom is the blueprint. Daniel grew up in a world where money was a source of constant screaming. He worked hard, used the infinite loop, and acquired 50 properties. He is rich. But Daniel still lives in fear. He thinks he has to pay off all the loans to be safe. He is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. He is about to kill the velocity of his empire because he still has the heart of a saver, hiding inside the armor of an investor. Across the street is a dynasty builder. This person realizes that the debt is the very thing that protects the wealth from the thieves of taxes and inflation. They don't pay it off, they refine it, they move the debt into structures that the government cannot touch. Daniel leaves his kids a pile of cash that taxes will eat. The dynasty builder leaves an unbreakable machine. In the final game, taxes are the gravity that wants to pull your empire back into the earth. If you do not understand the law of the shield, you are working for the system, not for your family. This is where real estate becomes a spiritual weapon. Most people view taxes as an inevitable tax on their labor. You see them as a choice. By maintaining strategic debt on your properties, you create interest deductions and depreciation that turn your income into a ghost. On paper, you look like you're losing money. In reality, you are awash in cash. You are using the government's own rule book to keep your energy within your own walls. This is not cheating. This is commanding. You must learn the art of the step-up in basis. This is the ultimate gift of the real estate master. When you pass a leveraged property to your heirs, the cost of that property resets to the current market value. Decades of gains, millions of dollars in growth, vanish from the taxman's sight in a single heartbeat. The debt remains, but the profit is reborn. Your children start the race at the finish line. This is how the great families of history stay in power. They don't sell. They borrow, they grow, they die, and they repeat. The debt is the glue that holds the dynasty together. It provides the cash for a family to live while the assets stay locked in a fortress of legal protection. Imagine a massive oak tree. Its roots go deep into the earth, and its branches reach for the sun. The roots are your foundational properties, the ones you will never sell. The sap is the cash flow. The bark is your legal and tax shield. Most people try to take the tree down to get the wood. You keep the tree alive forever, only taking the fruit. You are creating a sovereign estate that exists outside the whims of any single generation. You are the architect who drew the first line, but the building is meant to stand long after you have left the room. This requires a cold, calculated commitment to the structure over the ego. Wealth is a living thing. If it is not fed by discipline, it dies. The greatest risk to your dynasty is not a market crash. It is a soft heir. It is a child who is the fruit but never felt the heat of the forge. To prevent this, you must integrate your family into the machine. You don't give them money. You give them assets with obligations. You teach them the math of Chapter 5 when they are children. You show them how to read a debt-to-wealth ratio before they can drive a car. You are training the next generation of commanders. Look at the stories of the families that lost everything in 3 generations. It always starts the same way. The first generation builds with fire. The second generation manages with fear. The third generation spends with folly. To break this cycle, you must make the legacy fulcrum a part of your family's DNA. The debt becomes a rite of passage. They must learn to manage a small loan before they are given the keys to the empire. You are not protecting them from the world of debt. You are arming them for it. You are showing them that the world is a playground of leverage and that their name stands for the integrity that makes people want to lend to them. Think of a relatable persona. Let's call her Elena. Elena didn't just leave her daughter a bank account. She left her a family bank. Every year, the family meets to discuss which assets to refinance and which new gaps to hunt. The debt is the topic of the dinner table. It is normalized. It is respected. Her daughter doesn't see a loan as a threat. She sees it as a tool her mother used to buy the very house they live in. She grows up with the mindset of the master as her birthright. When Elena finally passes, there is no confusion. There is only a seamless transition of power. The machine doesn't miss a beat. The fire keeps burning. We are at the end of this journey, but it is actually the beginning of your forever. You have the tools. You have the math. You have the character. Now, you must have the heart to let go of the me. You are building something that will outlive your breath. This is the highest form of human achievement. To create a system of freedom that benefits people you will never meet. This is your rebirth as an ancestor. The era of small thinking is over. The era of getting rich is over. You are now in the era of being wealthy. This is a quiet, steady, and unstoppable state of existence. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your assets speak for you. Your legacy speaks for you. Every time a tenant pays rent in a building you bought with a loan 50 years ago, your spirit is still acting in the world. You have achieved a form of financial immortality. Rise. Look at your life not as a timeline, but as a foundation. What are you building that will stand for 100 years? Where's a fulcrum that will lift your family out of the mud of the working class and into the light of the dynasty? Do the work today so that your name becomes a synonym for sovereign. The world is waiting for the next great line to begin. It starts with your next signature. It starts with your next strike. It starts with the fire in your eyes and the steel in your soul. Rise, build, endure. Your dynasty is calling. The lever is in your hand. The conclusion: you began this journey fearing the weight of the debt. You end it mastering the power of the lever. The world will tell you to play it safe. The world will tell you to shrink. But you now know the truth. True wealth is built on the courage to use the tools available to you. Real estate is the canvas. Debt is the brush. Go forth and paint a life of absolute freedom. The door is no longer locked. Walk through